Welcome, everybody, to the first episode of the Pitch and Catch podcast. My name is Eli Sweiss,
And I'm Joey Fernandez.
and we will be bringing to you baseball news, baseball discussions, and baseball debates. So if you're a baseball fan, you're going to want to subscribe and tune in. We're going to be on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. If you guys want to follow our TikToks, IG, and Twitter, just follow at Pitch Catch Pod. We'll include the links in the description as well on the YouTube video. And yeah, we could get right into it. We're kind of starting this in a crazy, crazy time.
Oh yeah.
Some
Uh
crazy wild card
I
races. So
yeah, I mean there's a lot to talk about right now. This is literally peak baseball season, I would say. There's the AL wild card. I mean the NL wild card was kind of like an interesting thing for a while, but one team is kind of just swooped in and stole
yeah,
the show. But
yeah, we'll get that. We'll get into that in a little bit. But first, we can just talk about a little bit about ourselves. Just I'm a Cubs fan, as you can see, and Joey's a Sox fan. So just you guys can see the different perspectives. Two people from Chicago with two different points of view. So we could start with, talking about the other person's team. If you want to go first, give your thoughts on the Cubs. Obviously, it's a strange year for them, and maybe give some insight on what the future looks like.
I'll try to be as nice as I can, I guess. I think I think the Cubs did the right thing as far as the front office just kind of accepting that the team's core wasn't going to get it done as much anymore, and that they were kind of flawed in general as like trying to be a competing team this year, and accepting that and just cutting their losses and taking what they could get for the guys they had now, even if they were on expiring contracts, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a very tough time. Obviously, you know how some of the reactions went. But looking back on it, I'm a bit optimistic. It is tough when you
Yeah.
lose people like Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, Baez, Kimbrel, lose the whole bullpen. It's really tough when you lose, the people that you grew up watching. As I'm wearing a Javi Baez All-Star shirt, it's a little tough. So,
Yeah. I
um,
mean, yeah, I can't even imagine how it feels to have like your superstar just kind of playing in a different uniform when they were literally just on at Wrigley Field like a day ago, you know? It's so
yeah,
weird. And then with Rizzo hitting a home run his first game. Did Javi hit one too, right?
and Chris Bryant.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I thought I remember that correctly. That's that's pretty funny, I'm not gonna lie, as a Sox fan at least.
Yeah.
But I mean, you guys got your championship. I mean, you can't really be too upset at that.
Oh
Um,
no,
I, I
absolutely.
I think the future is bright. Honestly, you guys got some solid prospects back, especially for guys on expiring deals when teams aren't looking to give up much of their farm system anymore.
Yeah, for sure. We can definitely go into the in depth on both teams in a later episode.
Yeah,
Just my quick thoughts on the Sox. Obviously a powerhouse on the AL. Pitching looks great. Hitting is great. The one thing is just health, and that's the most important thing in all of sports. As long as the Sox can stay healthy, I think they can be serious contenders, and I think everyone is already aware of that. Um, they just clinched the division, which was no surprise.
Mickey Mouse division.
Maybe coming into the year, there was some people who thought there might be a little competition. The Twins were looked at as a team that would be a little competitive. Obviously, that fell apart pretty quickly. And you know, from the first couple months, the Sox were the clear-cut division winners. We all knew that. And now everyone's starting to get healthy. Obviously, some people are dealing with some things. Um, Abreu is probably giving you a heart attack every single day, getting hit. Um, so I really
Yeah.
think they can make a run, and we'll get into that later. Um, but let's talk about this Red Sox Yankee series that just happened. Huge implications in the wild card race. Um, Red Sox got swept by the New York Yankees. What do you think about that?
It's it's pretty crazy, honestly. They went into Sunday after dropping the first two games, and personally, I thought the Red Sox would come out with some sort of fire because of dropping the first two games
Mm-hmm.
at home, especially Sunday Night Baseball. The lights are bright, you know, and I mean they were in a position to win the game with the controversial call. I mean, I don't know how you feel about it. Personally, I feel like that was pretty botched by Joe West. I don't know. I That was easily on the transfer in my opinion. That
Yeah,
the
the,
strikeout of Aaron Judge
I've
and
I've never seen. I think it was a very clear call. Unfortunately, I mean, I know me and you are rooting for the Red Sox in that situation anyway, but all bias aside, like it was a clear missed call, and it had very, very serious implications. It's not to say the Yankees wouldn't have won the game, but obviously, right after Aaron Judge smokes an extra base hit, and then Stanton just stands on a tear, and he hit another ball 500 feet, or at
Man,
least it looked like it out of Fenway. And the Yankees, man, like they were on the hot streak, then they had their little struggles, and we kind of got to see the real Yankees team. They were getting away with close games. The bullpen kind of giving every Yankees fan a heart attack. Every game somehow they pulled away with it, and then now they're heating up again. So and they're winning the
yeah.
important games, which matters.
The Yankees, they've had one of the most, probably the most up and down season out of anyone in the league this year, I believe.
Hmm.
I mean, they, most people were saying they had no chance of the playoffs, probably including me, honestly. At
Hmm.
like around the All Star break, I was like, "There's no chance." I mean, it's hard to predict. 14 in a row, is that what they had?
Yeah,
Something like that.
something along
Uh,
those lines.
but then, I mean, I guess the trade deadline acquisitions, they got the two lefty bats, and then they got Clay Holmes and Andrew Heaney, who obviously has probably been more of a negative than a positive, but they
Yeah.
still bolstered their roster in general. So I guess that may have gave them some sort of spark, but
Hmm.
I mean, it's hard for me to say they're like great contenders, but I think they're definitely in the mix. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're for sure in the mix. And they are doing what they need to. They're winning ball games, which is the most important thing. It's just in my head, it can what they're doing right now is not sustainable against,
Exactly.
like I want to say against the good teams that they're going to play, but they just swept the Red Sox, which is they were like I thought they were a lock for the wild card, and now they're in a little bit of jeopardy. I still think they might pull through. They probably will, but it's really tough to see this Yankees team go far in the playoffs against, the Astros, the Rays, the White Sox. There's so many little scares and so many holes in that team. They're a great ball club. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of people
For sure.
on that team that's amazing. Aaron Judge, obviously, Stanton, Gallo. They have a ton of people. It's just it doesn't seem like they should be where they are, and I don't
I
know if
agree.
this luck can transition into the playoffs.
I definitely agree. I mean, it's just the lack of consistency and the consistent bullpen just blow. I mean, I don't think their bullpen numbers are like bad at all, but when you watch them, it just feels like it's never totally in hand. You know what I mean? They don't have
Hmm.
enough dominant arms in that pen. Like Chad Green is supposed to be one of their more reliable pitchers, but I just feel like he doesn't get enough swing and miss and enough dominant innings to really feel confident in him compared to the other team's bullpens that are in contention for the AL.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the things I want to bring up is it's a very one-sided lineup. It's a lot of
Yes.
power hitters, and you would think that you would be mixing in contact guys. DJ LeMahieu was one of the best hitters in the league a few years ago. Obviously on the decline. He's not the same player he used to be. Gleyber Torres is having a tough year. Um, these power hitters are good players, really good players. I mean, obviously, like I said before, Judge, Stanton, Rizzo, and Gallo, and Sanchez, and Voit, and you have these people mixed in. These are really good power hitters. But if you play a stud on the mound, if you go up there and you got, Lance Lynn, you got Rodon, you got these big guys. I don't know how. Actually, I do know how much it could. It's not going to turn out well. Honestly, they're gonna get their luck. They're gonna get the few home runs. The teams that win games in the playoffs are the teams that could hit the single, could sacrifice bunt, could do all like Joey Gallo. Is a stat he's never had a sac fly, or is it one?
He's had two, I want to say. I want to say he had one this year,
Yeah, and I don't
which
mean to
is
single him
ridiculous.
out, but it's just like these people. There's not a ton of guys who I think can, man on second, just move him over. It's really tough, and that's something I
Agreed.
think teams like the White Sox, the Rays, the Astros, they do very well. And we'll get into the Blue Jays later. I think they do a good job of it as well. A very balanced lineup, which I think is extremely important in the playoffs.
Yeah. I with with the Yankees, I want to kind of add on to your point. I mean, the three true outcomes is the way baseball is going nowadays. But
Mhm.
I mean, they have Joey Gallo, the king of the three true outcomes: the walk, the strikeout, and the home run. But I mean, what happens when you come up to the plate one day and the whole lineup is going with the strikeout outcome? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's going to be no sort of small ball being played, and sometimes that's how it is in the playoffs because there's literally the best pitching staffs in the league are on display every day, and sometimes a guy has his best stuff, like you said, and there's just nothing you can do about it if you're striking out most of the time.
Yeah, and it might seem like we're
Obviously,
dogging on the Yankees. I mean, they've beaten the White Sox this year.
yeah,
They've swept, obviously, the Red Sox. They've proven they could win. It's just, it's not sustainable, in my opinion. Is there a chance it is sustainable and they get lucky throughout the
of
playoffs?
course.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's baseball, anything can happen. But when you're going through predictions and what we've seen in the past, personally, we'll talk about who we think is going to make the wild card and all that in a second. I don't think the Yankees, if they do make the wild card, get past the first round.
I completely agree. I mean, I could see them winning the wild card game
Yeah.
just because they have Garrett Cole on the mound,
Hmm.
obviously, because you put him up against anyone and you feel like you got a chance. Like,
Hmm.
duh. But I mean, if you just look at the trends and way things go, like run differential and stuff like that, I mean, the Yankees are they only have a 40 plus 44 run differential compared to the other playoff teams. That's not very good at all. Like the Blue Jays have them beat by like 100 runs. So
Yeah.
I mean, if you just look at it, uh, their wins aren't even really dominant as they should. At least they don't get me wrong. They have the potential to get hot like any other team with that much talent, but it's just the way it looks. I don't see it personally.
Yeah. Absolutely. There was a pretty funny thread on Twitter today explaining a crazy outcome where there could be, I believe, a five-way tie in the
Yeah.
wild card race. Do you have that pulled up, or do you remember a
Uh.
little bit about that?
Yeah. Uh. So the five-way tie originally started with a Reddit post, and people were passing it around and stuff like that. But it was nothing like too serious, and just like some baseball fans were talking about it. And then Jeff Passan tweeted out about potential like three-way tiebreakers. And later in the thread, he said the five-way tie on Reddit is stupid and won't happen. And then he mentioned old takes exposed, and he said, "I'll gladly take it if it somehow comes up." But I don't know. The five-way tie included like the Rays winning 2 games against the Yankees specifically, and
Hmm.
then a bunch of other scenarios where specific teams would have to beat specific teams a certain amount
Yeah.
of times, which I
Something. Yeah. Something very
it's literally like
unlikely.
a tongue twister.
Literally,
Yeah.
it's not going to happen. It's just funny that it's possible.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, we're in basically the last week of baseball. Handful of games left. Huge week. You got the Blue Jays playing the Yankees, which is the series I'm looking forward to the most.
That's
Um,
it's basically October baseball.
oh, absolutely, it's amazing right now. And as you know, I'm a little bit of a Blue Jays fan. They're probably my favorite American League team. I'm rooting for them here. And what are your predictions on this series coming up against the Yankees?
Uh, I mean, personally, I'm gonna check out the probable starters right now, but I I think, man, the Yankees are riding high.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling the Yankees are gonna pull through here. Personally, I think they could easily take 2 out of 3, just because of that momentum they generated from the Red Sox. And I don't know how that bodes well for the Blue Jays. Obviously not well, but if the Red Sox don't do well and cover their own ground, they might not lose too much. It really depends, but I'm not feeling too great about the Blue Jays odds here. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, so going into the series, they got Ryu versus Tyone in the first
Okay.
game, which I think is pretty even matchup.
Yeah,
Which could bode well for either team depending on how they do. Ryu obviously hasn't been his self in recent memory. He could
for
still pull
sure.
through. Tyone obviously had a great start to the second half. That's going to be a really good game. But then the game I'm looking forward to the most is the second game in the series, Garrett Cole versus Barrios.
Uh,
He's been great since they got him from the Twins. I think he had one kind of shaky start, but he's been a big part in keeping them in this. Garrett Cole, obviously, fantastic. I think I think this game is for the Yankees to lose. They have all the pieces going right now, like you said. It's going to be very interesting. I do like the Blue Jays lineup a lot. I think they're one of the most dangerous teams in the AL in terms of just straight up batting. The bullpen, obviously a big problem. They've had some guys step up, but yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. And then on Thursday, you got Robbie Ray versus Corey Kluber, which, if everything goes well, the Blue Jays should at least have a chance to win when
Yeah.
Robbie Ray exits, which uh, bodes well for them.
Yeah, that's kind of my thinking is that they would probably take the last game as a consolation prize, I guess, just to
Mm-hmm.
kind of tread water. But I don't know. I could definitely see Garrett fumbling it a little bit on Wednesday. He's not coming off the best couple of starts he's had. The last start, I don't think he was that bad. Was
Mm-hmm.
that nah? It was 2 starts ago when he had 7 earned runs, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, he hasn't been as sharp as of late, especially when they've needed him. But I definitely could see him just giving a solid outing. I don't think he's going to be like shut down or anything because the Blue Jays have too much firepower. But I mean, who knows? I personally think the Yankees will probably take the series looking at it right now. But momentum is kind of quick. If the Blue Jays come out hot the first game, they could just knock the Yankees down completely and just
Mm-hmm.
take away all the momentum they had during the Red Sox series.
Yeah. Obviously, that series can have, it does have huge implications on the wild card race. I want to know your two
Yeah.
final teams that you think are going to end up getting the wild card game in the AL. It's as close as it can get right now. It could
Do
be
you want
anyone.
do you want my biased opinion or do you want my actual opinion?
Why don't you give me both?
Okay. Well, my biased opinion is the Red Sox and the Blue Jays.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, I'll go Red Sox and Mariners just for fun. I feel like that would be the funniest story ever. I don't know. That's
Yeah.
just that dynamic of the Mariners who are just the underdogs just getting in. I mean, who doesn't love a good underdog story, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but I think it'll probably end up being the Red Sox, mostly because they're playing the Orioles,
Yep.
and man,
And
I mean, I guess
Washington right after.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I guess I said the Yankees were gonna win the Blue Jays series, so I guess that means the Yankees. I, I mean, I hate to say it because I think the Blue Jays are such an exciting team, and I want to see how a guy like Robbie Ray does in the playoffs when it's prime
Mm-hmm.
time, you know, because
Yeah.
he's been so good in the regular season, but I mean, I don't know. He hasn't really. I don't think he's pitched in the postseason since like 20 when he
Yeah.
had
Back
JD
when the
Martinez and the
Diamondbacks
Diamondbacks.
made it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
So
it's.
I'm kind of. I don't know. I I think the Blue Jays could be really solid too if they made it, especially
Mm-hmm.
if Ryu can show up in the playoffs because he hasn't been that great this year, but he also hasn't been awful either. You know.
Yeah. I would agree. I do think that the Red Sox and the Blue Jays are going to end up making it. I do have the Blue Jays. I have a feeling, man. I have a feeling they're going to take 2 out of 3 against New York, and I think one of them is going to be the Garrett Cole start. You just look at
Okay.
that Blue Jays lineup. Garrett Cole, fantastic pitcher, but he does have a tendency recently, at least. We've seen the blow ups a little bit. I think this Blue Jays lineup gets to him. I'm taking the Yankees first game, and then all the Yankees fans are going to be coming in talking. Um, I think Garrett Cole blows up, and Barrios gives them 6 innings, 1 or 2 runs, and the Blue Jays have already done enough damage to win that game. And then on paper, they should win the third game. Corey Kluber, not doing terrible, but Robbie Ray, we're going to be talking about him later in the race for Cy Young. So looking at these two teams, nonetheless, it's going to be a very exciting series. I think Blue Jays take 2 out of 3. I think they secure that wild card spot, and I think the Boston Red Sox win 5 out of their 6 next games to secure that wild card spot as well. And I'm gonna go with a little hot take here. I think the Mariners end up either tied or above the Yankees by the
Okay.
season's by
Okay.
the season's end. A
I
little hot
agree.
take.
I could get with that. I mean I feel like the Mariners are getting hot right now. They just
Mm-hmm.
recently swept the A's 4 games. I
Yep.
mean anything could happen with them. I mean my little sneaky team. I mean
Yeah.
they're gonna. I think they have the potential to put the league on notice. Just
Yeah.
saying.
The Yankees are also playing the Rays to end the year. Obviously,
You
the
don't
AL
like
East
that.
division champs, which, you know, they get it done. So that's going to be a very, very tough series for them. And then looking at the Seattle Mariners schedule, they're obviously doing pretty well against the Oakland Athletics. Athletics, honestly, I think they're just out of it now. They had a little
Yeah,
hope. I think they're done.
I think. Yeah, are they not? Are they officially eliminated? No, right?
I'm not sure. I just think like personally,
Oh no, they're not eliminated from the wild card. They're eliminated from the
yeah.
division, obviously.
Just looking at it, and then the Mariners play the Angels after, which they just won 2 out of 3 there. I think the Mariners go on a little hot streak, come up just a bit short, and end up overtaking the
Mm,
Yankees just to make those Yankees fans a little bit more angry.
in typical Mariners fashion,
Hmm.
coming up just a little bit short. It's, I mean, it'll be their day one day, I guess.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, I mean, mm, I feel bad about that Yankees pick. I'm not gonna lie. Like I just bashed their whole team and talked about how the trends point to them not being as good as they should be, and I still pick them. I don't know. I
They're
mean,
still a
I could
fantastic team.
yeah, I could easily be right, but
Hmm.
I don't know. I I just don't feel great about the pick, but
Yeah, I mean,
gotta
anything
stick
could
with it
happen. It's
now.
New York. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
Going to the other side of the league, it's pretty much wraps.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the Dodgers or the Giants are going to be taking the first spot. St. Louis Cardinals came out of nowhere, 16-game winning streak. They basically have this on lock. And how are your thoughts on that team going into the playoffs facing against the Dodgers or Giants?
The Cardinals are just all reliable. I That's all you can really
Hmm.
say about them. I mean, they have some young talent, obviously, but they got the old dogs, Wainwright and Yachty, the old battery mates. I mean, they have the young stars. Like, I mean, I don't know if you would call Nolan really young anymore, but he's not old. Uh,
Yeah.
and then they got Tyler O'Neill, who's obviously young and he's had a breakout season, who's been
Hmm.
pretty underrated until recently. Like people just started kind of bringing up his name. And then Paul Goldschmidt's been pretty solid. I would say he's been heating up over the past couple weeks. So,
Hmm.
I mean, they just kind of caught fire at the right time in typical St. Louis Cardinals fashion. I mean, you should probably know better than anyone, being a Cubs
Yeah,
fan, but
absolutely. It pains me to see this and it pains me to say it, but they've been excellent as of late. And back to Tyler O'Neill, I mean, he's been nothing short of a superstar this year. He's top
agreed.
15 um, in xWOBA, top 15 in WRC plus among all hitters. He he's not having a good year. He's having a fantastic year, and he's a borderline
Oh yeah,
superstar at this point. We need to see more. Obviously, 1 year is not going to tell the whole story. He is a huge part of that offense. Harrison Bader, very underrated player. Dylan Carlson, not in the running for Rookie of the Year, but still having a good enough year to maybe warrant a little look at and just appreciate what he's done.
yeah.
And it's a team that they have names. They have Arenado. They got Goldschmidt. They obviously have Yachty. They're not filled with superstars, but somehow
No.
like the Rays, they got it done.
Yeah.
It's
And
remarkable.
their pitching has been kind of gutted. Like
Hmm.
they didn't have Flaherty for most of the year. He never even got close to 100 innings, I believe.
Yeah,
Wainwright has been their innings leader by like almost 100 innings. It's kind of
yeah.
ridiculous. He's been the only guy that's been in the rotation the whole year basically. I think Kim is their second in innings leader and he hasn't been pitching that much either. It's kind of ridiculous. They traded John Gant for J.A. Happ, and I was kind of puzzled by that because I mean, I mean, Gant isn't that great by any means, but I mean, J.A. Happ got shelled while he was with the Twins. I mean, I'm not sure. Like, I wasn't sure why they would even want him in the first place, but he's been solid with them. I think
Hmm.
he has just above a 4 ERA, and his FIP is pretty solid also. And then along with John Lester being an acquisition at the deadline, like everyone was kind of. I mean, everyone understood why they would do that, but it's still kind of like, are you going for it, or are you kind of just treading water at this point? You know.
Yeah, very interesting. Pained me to see obviously my boy Johnny Lester get his 200th win in a Cardinals uniform. And I'm sure he didn't even like that, to be honest. Um, but I
Oh
think
yeah,
they
I'm
get it.
sure.
I think if it's them, if the Giants sneak away with the first place and the Dodgers end up in the wild card, I think Dodgers take the game. I do think if
Of
the
course.
Giants end up having the wild card, it's a lot closer than people think.
Oh yeah, I agree. I mean, don't get me wrong, Kevin Gosman's been pretty good, but I I don't know. I think I don't trust him nearly as much as I would trust a Max Scherzer in a
Hmm.
1 game playoff, you know?
Hmm.
Like with Max Scherzer, you just kind of have that sense of like I trust this guy, you know?
Yeah.
Like he's been there and done that. And the Giants, I know they've been the best team in baseball and all this year, and they have the 100 wins and all that, but uh, I need to see it. I need to see it in
Yeah.
October. I know all of these guys. Well, not all of these guys, but most of these guys were around for the good Giants teams back like 5, 6 years ago. But
Hmm.
I don't know. I call me a hater, but I'm not the biggest believer in the San Francisco Giants.
It's interesting because a couple months into the year, Giants were obviously extremely hot. They had all the doubters. They've they've proved it the whole year that they're a good ball club, which is it's
I
mind-blowing to
agree.
me. They were projected around 73, 75 wins. They're over the century mark. They're at like 102, I believe, at the time of this recording.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. They're sneaky just because they don't seem like they should be where they are, but they've done
No.
it the
Yeah.
whole year. They weren't hot for a couple months. They've been a top team in baseball the whole year, which is extremely surprising.
It's actually kind of blows my mind. I'm not gonna lie. They've had Brandon Crawford, Buster Posey, Evan Longoria, Brandon Belt, all with career revelations all in the
Hmm.
same year. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if they got some Barry Bonds magic going or something, but Buster Posey is literally almost as good as he was during his MVP season at the plate.
Yeah, and
Like
they also
that's
got
something
some
crazy to put
some
in
random
perspective.
guy. He plays outfield, third base, really good hitter. Yeah, they got Chris Bryant as well to add to that. And the starting rotation has been amazing. If you compare, the xERAs to the ERA, you can see that they've been a bit lucky, but the luck
Yeah.
has sustained, and it's not 100% luck either. Gosman's been really good. DeSclafani's been really good. There's been a lot of people that have stepped up for them. Webb has been fantastic. There's so many different people who are stepping up for them, and the Dodgers are going to be favored in the series versus the Giants if it happens. If the Giants were to take the series from the Dodgers, I wouldn't be completely shocked.
No, I agree with that. I completely agree with that. I just like I wouldn't be shocked, but I just need to see it in front of my face before I declare anything personally. That's how I am. I mean, I one of the guys that like kind of came out of nowhere that I'm actually a big fan of is Logan Webb
Hmm.
personally. He literally throws boomerangs. I don't understand like how his pitches move the way they do. I I don't know how he didn't break out earlier with all that like with all that sink and cut he has on his pitches. I don't understand, but I don't know. Um, and surprisingly, Gabe Kapler has done a great job managing that team because
Oh,
he's
absolutely.
been he's been hated on a lot, even with his old job. Everyone on Twitter was always nagging on Gabe Kapler. I don't know. Maybe he was just getting a bad rep, or he just kind of started to figure it out with more experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, probably in the running, top three for manager of the year, I would assume.
I'd say he deserves it personally. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't think of anyone else that's even really that. I mean, I guess if you want to go Mike Schilt just because of the run in September, but with the overall sample size, I don't know how you could go anywhere else besides Gabe Kapler personally.
Yeah. No, I mean, the most surprising team of the year, in terms of winning. The most
Ooh.
surprising team in terms of losing, San Diego Padres. What happened there?
Oh, I mean, where do I even start? I mean, you Darvish posting. I mean, he had a solid season going up until the sticky stuff crackdown. Um,
Yeah.
Blake Snell and him are kind of having opposite seasons. Blake Snell started off in the first half terrible, like actually awful, and then Yu Darvish started off strong, and then as soon as the All-Star game hit, they did some Freaky Friday stuff. I don't know what happened. They kind of reversed roles, and Yu Darvish started giving up hard contact a lot more, and Blake started getting soft contact. I
Yeah.
don't know what happened.
Yeah. I mean, it's very interesting to look at, especially like you said with the substance crackdown. That's when Darvish started to kind of fade a little bit. I didn't think he would be using it, and there's no evidence. But
Yeah.
definitely something to look at. We don't need to spend too much time on the Padres. They're kind of a lost cause. Um, I super high expectations for them though, and they just blew it. They even added, Adam Frazier. They added people that could really help the team. And on paper, they look like a superstar team, but like you said, Snell and Darvish were never good at the same time, and
Yeah,
just Paddock hasn't been that great. Obviously Clevenger's not even there. I don't know. On paper, it
yeah,
seems like they should have done a lot better, but
I agree.
it kind of makes me happy that they are failing.
Yeah, I mean, once they got caught with their pants down when they thought they had Scherzer and then their division rival swooped in and took them, it just
Hmm.
felt like the whole dynamic of the season was just kind of over with at that point. They went out and got Frazier, but his as soon as he got there, his he still was a solid on base guy. I mean, he's about league average with the Padres, like 332, but then
Hmm.
his slugging just completely plummeted, and then he's had a 669 OPS with the Padres, so he's probably hurt them more than he's helped them, to be honest with you. So,
Yeah, it's
so
definitely been interesting to see. Y- yeah, just so many different things going wrong for them. Obviously, I think it got blown out of proportion with the whole Manny and Fernando Tatis thing.
I agree.
That's just teammates being teammates. Um, if you've played a sport, you know that that's not anything serious. But just seeing like that type of stuff, and then they're losing, it, it all just
Just
fell
a tough
apart
look, yeah.
right in front of
And
our eyes.
I Yeah, I mean they tried to make a desperate move in August and they fired their pitching coach Larry Rothschild. Their
Mhm.
their pitching somehow got worse after they fired the coach.
Yeah.
I and then I honestly don't think Jace Tingler was up for the job anyway, as their manager. I mean it's not set in stone that he'll be gone, but I just don't see a situation or scenario, I would say, where he stays. I just don't see it. He was hired when they were coming off a rebuild, and I mean when they were still in the rebuild, and then they kind of got sped up, and he was more the bridge guy in my opinion in the
Hmm.
first place.
Yeah. Absolute dumpster fire there, and I can't say I'm very sad about it. Um,
Agreed.
Going into some of the awards, some of them are locked up, but there's a lot of them that aren't.
Mm,
Let's start with one where any person who, knows a decent amount of baseball, they know that Shohei Ohtani should be the MVP. Um,
yeah,
do you see any argument for Vlad, even though one of my favorite players, his jersey's in this closet right now. I love him. Almost, he could get
this
the triple crown. I'm not really sure where he stands on that now, but it's so tough. But Otani, this is unbelievable, is all I could say.
this this argument, anyone who tries to make the argument for Vladimir Guerrero Jr., it truly hurts my brain. I have nothing else to say on the topic besides just stop.
Hmm.
There's literally nothing you can argue. Like Shohei, he's a full WAR ahead of him. I mean, and he's been a solid hitter at the plate. He's had an all-star season on the mound and at the plate. I mean, there's nothing Vladimir Guerrero Jr. can do that can even negate it at all, to be honest with you. I mean, he would have to literally have a Barry Bonds season to even have a chance at it.
And even then, this isn't something
It would be tough to even argue it in that scenario.
we've never seen this before. People like to
Exactly.
say, "Oh, Babe Ruth pitched and hit." Babe Ruth was a scrub compared to what Otani. Otani's a top 20 pitcher in the league right now,
Agreed.
and
He
a superstar hitter. He's stealing bases. He runs extremely fast. He can play the outfield. He is the most valuable player in baseball. Like, there's no
yeah.
arguing that. And Vladimir Guerrero Jr., fantastic year. I love to see him come up like this. He's going to be
Oh
one of the
yeah.
best hitters of our generation.
Completely agreed.
Simply cannot argue what Shohei did. It's
Yeah, I completely agree. When it comes to B War, Show has an 8.9 and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is 6.7. I mean, don't get me wrong, 6.7 is amazing and it's probably MVP level basically any other year that Mike
mm-hmm.
Trout isn't playing and getting
Yeah,
his typical 8 to 9, and then Shohei. Like,
yeah,
uh, it's pretty ridiculous. I mean, when you're conquering uncharted waters like this, you're kind of undeniable at that point, you know?
yeah. It's insane what both of them are doing, but Shohei Ohtani is the lock for the AL MVP, and he deserves it. It's been a treat to watch. Going to the NL MVP, maybe a little bit closer than we think. The two front runners,
Yeah.
Bryce Harper and Juan Soto. obviously, some of us may or may not have money on Bryce Harper, but all
Yeah,
bias
you don't have to
aside,
go into depth on that.
all bias aside, what are your thoughts on that?
um, I mean, Bryce Harper is I don't I don't know how to put this because I feel like most baseball fans acknowledge Juan Soto's greatness, but I feel like whenever Bryce Harper is having a great year, like everyone around baseball is like baseball's better when Bryce Harper's having a year like this, you know what I mean? Because he's more of the nationwide name, and I feel like that sort of and to go along with the playoff push the past month, I feel like the bias is just kind of being set in. Don't get me wrong, Bryce is having a great year, but Juan Soto is literally having one of the best second halves we've seen in a few years.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a difference between who should win MVP and who's going to win, especially when you
Yeah.
take into account the voters. Maybe not as, they don't pay as much attention to the advanced stats. I know a lot of people
Mhm.
don't like when you only use advanced stats, but you don't even have to use only advanced stats. Look at the whole table. Bryce Harper's having a fantastic year, but Juan Soto is one of the best hitters like we've ever seen, and one of the best hitters in the league. He's he's absolutely insane right now, and I think if I were to decide, my vote would be for Juan Soto. I do think Bryce Harper will win MVP. Um, I want to get your take on should team success be a big factor. We've seen Mike Trout win MVP over and over again for a team who's not making the playoffs, and deservedly so. Mike Trout's been the
Yeah.
best hitter in the league his whole career, basically. How much, if any, should team success be taken into account?
Zero.
I completely
team
agree.
team success. Baseball is the biggest team oriented sport there is. I mean, it like it's, it'd be possible in my head for a player to go out one year and have a 12 war season, and his team could probably still win like 60 games if they have nothing around him, you know what I mean? So there's really nothing that Juan Soto can possibly do that would elevate his team to get any better than what they are right now. They
Yeah.
gutted their team at the deadline. Uh, he only got better when he had less protection in the lineup when Trey Turner departed. So like, I mean, I don't know what else you can expect out of a guy like that. You know what I mean? Team success should have zero to do with any sort of individual awards, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I
I
just
would
I
completely
just
agree.
don't see an argument for it.
Yeah, completely agree. I do think I I would petition for the MVP to be changed to the MVO or wait no, most the MOP, the most outstanding player. I think when people look at most valuable, they look at team success for whatever reason, and it could, Bryce Harper's leading the charge for the Phillies. They were in the race before the Cardinals got extremely hot. Obviously, I'm pretty sure they're
Yeah.
still in the race to win the division. I don't think they do. Um, but Juan Soto's been the most outstanding player in the National League. He's having a historic season. He's getting on base half the time, which is ridiculous. All you have to do is Google his name, go to Fangraphs, just look at his stats. I I've said this to you before. I think when his career is done, he's going to go down as one of the best hitters of all time.
Yeah.
At
I mean,
age 22, I mean, come on.
at age 22, he's in the 100th percentile for chase rate and walk percentage. I mean, need I say more? With that sort of plate discipline, I mean, you can play until you're 40, barring injuries, obviously. But
Hmm.
like, I mean, if you're gonna walk over 100 times a year every year, like on a consistent basis, you're gonna have a job for as long as you want.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I don't see anything stopping him. And it's his only knock on him before was when he was playing left field. His defense wasn't that great, and he didn't have much range. But he's in the 90th percentile for outs above average this year. So like, there's there's no knock on him at all
No.
besides sprint speed, I guess, which is average. So I mean, I don't like. There's literally nothing you can say wrong about Juan Soto.
Yeah.
He's proved it in the playoffs. Well, I'm kind of going on a tangent here about my Juan Soto fandom, but
Yeah.
I mean, I personally think he clearly deserves it, but
Yeah.
it's
He's
just me.
also been a lot better defensively compared to Bryce Harper, and even just compared to his normal career, he's he's having a really good defensive year for his standards, and even he's having an above average defensive year just in general.
Yeah.
Bryce Harper has, I believe, -7 defensive runs saved, and Juan Soto has 4 plus 4. That's an 11 run
Yeah,
day
he's
on defense, and I wouldn't say defense should play, you know, a huge part. It's
yeah.
definitely worth considering. And Juan Soto, to many people's surprise, has the edge there, which is very interesting.
Yeah, especially when they play the same position, it makes it a lot easier. Especially a corner outfield spot because, and they're playing in the same division, most of the same ballpark, so there's no excuses for either side, you know.
Hmm.
And it's to say, and about outs above average, Bryce is among the worst in the league.
Hmm.
He's in the fifth percentile actually,
Wow.
so that's pretty brutal. I didn't think he was that bad personally, but I mean,
Yeah,
the
surprising.
I, yeah, defensive advanced metrics are still a little iffy sometimes. They can
Hmm.
be a little flawed, but I think they've got it nailed down to a somewhat degree to like get some sort of gauge on how someone's doing in the field.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on to the NL Cy Young. My vote, Corbin Burns. It's tough, man. Max Scherzer's having a fantastic year. He's been such a bright spot for the Dodgers since he's gotten traded them. He's been almost unhittable, and it's one of those things where if you told me that you think Max Scherzer would win, I would have no problem with it at all. I just think looking at the stats, Corbin Burns, he's having quietly one of the best pitching seasons we've seen in recent memory. Um,
Oh yeah,
if you look at his, ERA compared to his xERA, it's almost a whole run less than Max Scherzer, um, which proves that he's been getting unlucky. And if
yeah,
he's if he's having this type of year while getting unlucky, imagine if he just had normal luck. Um,
for
he's
sure.
in my opinion the Cy Young, and it is close, but I think while looking at the stats and I don't. Obviously team success doesn't. Shouldn't play a factor, but he's been the biggest part in that Brewers lineup in the pitching
No
rotation.
doubt. Yeah,
He's held it down every game, every single year, and Max Scherzer has as well. But it's
yeah,
tough.
and
My
the
vote
degree of
would go to him.
the degree of dominance that Corbin has done it with also is just ridiculous.
Hmm.
I mean, he's not even walking any hitters either. That's the
No.
crazy thing. He's under 2 walks per nine. I mean, like this guy's pounding the zone and he's daring you to hit it at this
Yeah.
point. And I mean, he has caught some tough breaks. His FIP is 1.56 compared to his 2.29 ERA. So I mean, this how does a dude that dominant still get unlucky? He literally could be having a Jacob DeGrom level season, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Not
Move.
I wouldn't say Jacob DeGrom like this year as he was
Yeah.
pitching, but like past years, you know.
Oh yeah. Degrom, such a sad narrative. I was so excited to see what he would be doing this year. Injuries obviously got the best of him. It's tough. I think obviously he would be the clear front runner if he pitched more. He was having probably the most dominant season. Actually, he's been having the most dominant season I've ever seen in my life until he got injured.
Yeah, he would have been the NL MVP in my opinion also
Yeah,
if he kept it up that pace obviously. But
yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Going to the AL Cy Young. This gets a bit interesting over here. You have people like Garrett Cole and Robbie Ray leading the charge. And then you have people who probably won't get any votes, but Lance Lynn and Rodon, they don't have the innings, but
Yeah.
they've been pitching at a Cy Young level the whole entire year.
Agreed. Especially Rodon as far as the dominance factor. Uh, his K per nine is maybe the best in the league at this point. It might have dropped a little bit because of his fast few starts, but he was leading the league for most of the year, up until September. So, I mean, if unfortunately he was dealing with some arm, I don't know what to call it. His arm was just tired basically because he
Hmm.
hasn't pitched that many innings in a few years, but sorry, excuse me. Uh, I mean, he's been dominant, but I just don't see him getting any more than like top five, you know.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um,
and Lance Lynn, as far as like a consistency standpoint, he's up there with everyone. But the White Sox have had the luxury of having some phantom IL stints because they had such a large lead in the division. So that probably didn't help their case too much, but they'd probably trade that for a World Series anyway.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting when looking at Robbie Ray versus Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole's been phenomenal. He's, like we said before, a few blowups, but we're not going to take it away from him. He's one of the best pitchers in the league.
Hmm.
3.08 ERA. His xERA is just a little bit lower, so basically he should be around where he's at. Interesting enough, Robbie Ray's been a huge part in the Toronto Blue Jays' success, in having them even be in contention for the playoffs. It's interesting when you look at his ERA. The xERA is a little bit higher. Um, Obviously, you should never base it just off that. It just
Hmm.
is something interesting to look at. Um, Really good FIP though. Uh, you know, Cole beats him in that by a little bit, and
Yeah.
he beats him in WAR. It's very tough. I love Robbie Ray. He's been having a great year. This one to me goes to Garrett Cole still. But I do think Robbie Ray will personally win, just based on his actual ERA being about 3/10 lower, which
Uh huh.
is a pretty big gap. And I would not object to Robbie Ray winning. I
Yeah.
would just probably give my vote to Garrett Cole.
That's fair. Personally, I think Robbie Wade probably wins, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. The FIP does scare me a little bit just
Mm-hmm.
looking at it, and who knows what that could mean in the playoffs. Maybe it comes back to bite him a little bit, but I mean, I don't know. I think the voters may just want to vote for the new name. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
As far as like a guy who's had a resurgence and who's lowered the walks, and they'll more look at the improvement, and then
Mm-hmm.
for Cole they just kind of they get the voters fatigue after a while. You know what I mean? Like they just
Yeah,
kind of because he's been there. I mean, he's been in top three voting since 2017 or
yeah.
maybe
I'm
18.
also
So
I'm not a
I
huge fan at looking at specifically only ERA, but I do think
yeah
a
yeah
lot of these voters are, which helps Robbie
yeah
Ray's
for
case a
sure.
lot.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I want to say Robbie Ray, but I feel like Garrett Cole also deserves it looking at the underlying stats. But I don't think that's what really matters when it comes to voters at this point in time, at least.
No, and I do think in the end, if Robbie Ray wins it, 100% deserved. Fantastic year. I have no problem with it. And same thing goes for Garrett Cole. I don't really think there's anyone close other than those two right now. So maybe depending on
Agreed.
how they finish the year, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, all it takes is one blow up start, and then we could be having a different conversation. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? But I mean Garrett Cole hasn't beat and walks per nine and Ks per nine, so there's not really much you could say, especially with the FIP looking more in Garrett's uh, I don't know favor, I guess you could
Yeah,
say.
yeah. They're both really great seasons. I'm interested to see what the voters come up with. NL Rookie of the Year, it's about as locked down as it can get. Jonathan India has been absolutely unreal. Um,
Yeah.
I don't really, as a Cubs fan, I'm supposed to hate the Reds. The Reds are actually my favorite team in the division, um, and I do like a
Besides
lot
the
of their
Cubs?
players. What was that?
Besides the Cubs?
Oh, obviously, but
Okay,
like
okay.
you're supposed to kind of hate your teams in your
Yeah,
division.
yeah.
I hate the Cardinals, the Brewers. I don't like the Pirates. Are just they suck. The Reds, there's a lot of people I do like on that team. One of them being Jonathan India, an exciting young player
Okay.
who's having a fantastic year.
Yeah, I've actually followed that Jonathan India ever since he was in college because this is around the time he was being drafted was when the Sox were picking high in the draft every year,
Mm,
and I believe he was picked in the Nick Madrigal draft, fifth overall. So he was someone that we could have potentially targeted. So I've always kept an eye on him. I never really thought he would do this well in his rookie season, though. Personally, I didn't think the power numbers would be as good as they are, to be honest with you. Like I always thought he would be a solid on base guy who played solid defense and could play a few different positions and just kind of be like sort of like a Swiss Army knife, and just kind of bring some solid value to the team. But I mean, for him to come out and have 52 extra base hits or 54 extra base hits in his rookie year is pretty promising.
yeah, 455 slug, 832 OPS, 121 WRC plus. A very good ex-Woba. I mean, he's doing it all, and it pains me that he's doing this because we might have been if he wasn't doing this well, we might be having a different conversation about Patrick Wisdom potentially winning it. Um,
Yeah,
he's been fantastic. I mean, there's nothing. I mean, as a Cubs fan, obviously, I'm loving what I'm seeing. Um, I think it's him. If Jonathan India didn't do this well, I don't think it's a question at this point. Um, but Patrick Wisdom
yeah,
definitely deserves his respect. He's been filling in nicely, easing the pain on the Chris Bryant loss, and it's been a couple months, but Frank Schwindel
yeah,
is he's been a top five hitter in the last
yeah.
2 months. You get a month or two, a month and a half more. He's in that
Mhm.
conversation as well, in my opinion. He's not going to have enough games to even warrant consideration, but what he's doing has been pretty impressive as well. But yeah, NL Rookie of the Year. Congrats to Jonathan India. I don't think there's any question.
Yeah. I agree. One thing I wanted to point out, not to rain on Patrick Wisdom's parade, but his K rate does scare me at 40%.
His K
But
rate is
it is his
terrible.
yeah, I know. That's one of the I saw that and I was like, wow, that's it
Yeah.
kind of scares me slightly, but I'm not gonna bag on it too much because he is technically a rookie. I know he's older, but who
Hmm.
knows if he could get that down to like 32, 33%, like I mean it's still not good, but it's somewhat respectable,
Yeah,
especially with the power he's
that's the
bringing.
main thing that scares me. Um, it's not good when it's that high, and obviously, he's
Hmm.
going through ups and downs. He's a rookie, like you said.
Yeah,
It needs to improve.
yeah,
But he's been fantastic in the power department, and even on defense, he's been playing outfield, and he has excellent defense in third base. Um, Definitely, he's at 29, 30. It's going to be interesting to see how he develops. But he's on my team. I'm excited for him, and we'll see where it goes from
of
there.
course. Reason
Um,
for optimism.
yeah. AL Rookie of the Year, probably a bit closer.
Yeah,
I'm not.
for sure.
I mean, Arozarena is the favorite, but you also have guys like Luis Garcia, who's been a huge part of the Astros' success, and
Yeah,
then Mountcastle's been fantastic, and Adolis Garcia has been very good as well.
yeah. I mean, if you asked me probably 3 months ago, I probably would have said Adolis Garcia, but he's tailed off a lot, especially in the on base department, and the power hasn't been nearly as consistent enough for him to warrant being the rookie of the year, in my opinion. I mean, he's made some plays in the field the past couple of days, but he's gotten figured out at the plate a little bit, so he's got to find some sort of rebound. But I think Randy probably is the vote here. I don't think anyone's been too crazy impressive, but Randy's been solid. I would say he's got the 126 WRC plus and the uh, uh yeah. I don't know where I was going there, but yeah, I think he's been okay.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. His xWOB was 300. League
Okay.
average, I believe, is around 312. So
Yeah.
it's interesting to look at. 457 slug, um, 353 on base. He's not having a bad year at all, and it doesn't even feel
No.
like he's a rookie after the playoff performance he had.
No. Yeah.
It,
Agreed.
I just, the Rays are doing very well, and that shouldn't be a factor. But Arozarena has been a big part of that. Um, I think he wins it, and I'm not too mad about it. I do
No.
think he deserves some recognition because he had the fantastic stretch in the playoffs, like we said, and he backed it up this year at the
Yeah.
plate. He held his own, and he had a really good rookie year.
Yeah, I think Garcia definitely will get a few votes though. And
Hmm.
in 150 innings, he's been pretty solid. I mean, he's got a 9.6 K per nine. He's walking an okay amount of hitters. And his FIP is 3.5, so that's not too bad either. With the ERA being 3.2, so I mean, it's it's a very solid season, I would say. Slightly above average, and for a rookie, I mean, you can't really ask for much less. He's really done wonders for the Astros,
Yeah,
personally.
yeah, no, definitely a huge part of that. I'm excited to see who comes out with that award. Um, we can move on to just talking a little bit about the Brewers clinched the division. Um, probably the scariest three-headed staff besides the Dodgers.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
the Sox are obviously up there as well, depending on how some factors play out. Um, how do you think this Brewers team does? Can pitching carry them? Is the offense good enough to beat teams like the Dodgers?
See, this is something I've been like going back and forth on in my head for a while now because it's been pretty known the Brewers are going to be in the playoffs for a few months now. So it's just tough. Like I want to say yes because pitching always comes up so big in the playoffs, but on the Brewers, I just don't know who's going to get that big hit, you know? Like they have some solid players in their lineup that can get the job done. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. I mean, I'd say if Christian Yelich was not hitting the ball into the ground every at bat, it would make me feel a lot more confident just with the strength of their lineup. I feel like that would add some fear to it, but I don't know. It's it's tough. I think they can definitely win. They can definitely make it to the CS, but whoever meets them is probably going to beat them, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to look at. I have a feeling they're pitching. You look at it. You got Burns, you got Peralta, and you got Woodruff, who are all having really good years, and then you got Devin Williams and Hader in the back end, along with some other pieces. If those guys can give you 6, 7 innings, it's kind of a lot to ask for, especially in the playoffs. Stakes are high. If the Brewers can scratch 3 runs, they exit the game. Devin Williams comes in. Hader's next. I could see them potentially winning, a series where every game is
Yeah.
decided by 1 or 2 runs, just based on how dominant, that sequence of pitchers can be. But
Yeah.
the hitting needs to be good, and their hitting doesn't match up to anyone else in the NL.
See, that's what scares me. What I look for in good teams is can they win in unconventional ways or can they win in different ways than their usual play style? You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
like, say one of their pitchers, which could easily happen in the playoffs because the pressure is on, doesn't come out with their best stuff. Where do they fall back in that scenario? Do they bring out one of the other two of the big three, or do they go to Hader early, or do they go to Devin Williams? It just I mean, they have Lauer and Hauser who have been solid, but do you really trust those guys? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I I just don't see them being able to go out there and slug with the other NL playoff teams. I'd even trust the Giants lineup a lot more than the Brewers lineup, you know?
Absolutely. I agree. If the Brewers pitchers all pitch well, that's a scary three-headed monster to
Oh
face.
yeah. They
It,
if they all come with their A game, they could easily make it to a World Series, but it just seems like such a best case scenario, you know?
mhm.
Because in October something is bound to go wrong. No team's really ever had a perfect October before.
Yeah, I agree, and it's going to be interesting. I'm going to be rooting against them as a Cubs fan. I love Corbin Burns. I really hope they don't do that well, just because uncontrollable circumstances. Um,
Yeah,
we could talk about your team, the Chicago White Sox, clinched the division recently. Obviously, you're a very optimistic person, and you should be
of
about this
course.
team. But what are some of your unbiased predictions?
um I'll give you my expectations first. Uh So last year, obviously, we had the 60-game season, and with the expanded playoffs, 16 teams instead of 10. I mean, we made it, but did we really make it? You
Hmm.
know, like it felt like we got like a ribbon at the end. Like I don't know, like I felt like I don't know. I guess you could say we made it last year, but I just want to take a step up personally because this isn't the end of our window. This is just the window barely opening up. So personally, I would like to see us go to a CS, and I think that's perfectly viable. I think the Astros are probably the toughest opponent we'll face. Um,
Yeah.
because in the World Series, I don't. I mean, I don't want to give away any future prediction, but I don't think the Dodgers will be there. I think something will happen where something goes wrong with them, but
Mm.
um, I think that if we beat the Astros, that momentum could propel us past the Rays, but I think if we face like another team besides the Rays from the wild card game, I think it could get a little fishy. I don't know. I don't know. Something in my gut is telling me that a Red Sox, if they get hot, their lineup could just carry them to a World Series, or the Yankees can kind of do the same thing.
Yeah, it's. The AL is tough, man.
Yeah,
It really depends. In my opinion, everyone is healthy. If everyone's healthy, the Sox have the best bullpen in the league. They have one of the best, starting rotation. They have a four-headed monster, I guess you can even say. Um, Maybe even five. Who knows if you throw in Kopech? That's going to be another key part in that rotation that we can talk about later. Whether you know he'll be used.
yeah,
I honestly see him being used as maybe like a Swiss Army knife, a spot
yeah.
start if something happens. If you want to go into your thoughts
Things
on that.
things are getting a little sketchy right now because it all really depends on if Carlos Rodon can pitch in the playoffs like he's
Hmm.
been pitching throughout the season. Like I said before, he has the tired arm. And last start he came out, his last pitch was an 89-mile-per-hour fastball, and he's been sitting at 95 all year.
Yeah.
So if that sort of trend carries on, can you really rely on a Carlos Rodon in the playoffs? And if so, can you get more than 3 innings from him? Will you have to piggyback maybe a Cease or a Kopech or a Crochet? You know what I mean? And will that will that play a part in the bullpen getting tired earlier if we do make a run? So it's kind of stressful. He's supposed to have a start on Wednesday, and we'll know more most likely. But I really feel like that's going to be a catalyst if he comes out and he's good enough, like or he's healthy enough, I guess you could say, to pitch in the playoffs, like with extended length. I think we're really set up to do well personally because if he's fine, then Dallas Keuchel won't be on the playoff roster. But if he isn't, that very well means we could see a Keuchel for 3 and a Kopech for 3 in one of the games. And I don't know if I really want to see that against a team like the Astros.
Yeah. I would have more confidence with Reynaldo out there than Keuchel. Um,
Yeah,
I
I think I
do not
agree.
want to see Keuchel on that roster, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I have a feeling that he will be. I don't know. I'm just getting the vibe that he hasn't said, and he's just kind of like, if I'm there, I'm there, like in most of his pressers. But I guess what do you expect him to say?
Hmm.
But at the same time, I don't think they even know yet. I think it all depends on Carlos because if he's not right and he doesn't have the length that he wants, they're gonna need another long reliever most likely,
Hmm.
which means they'll probably drop someone from the bench, whoever that is. But uh, another thing with that is Brian Goodwin got placed on the IL, so it most likely means that Gavin Sheets is on the playoff roster instead of him. I thought that was somewhat notable news, I guess.
How do you feel about that particularly? Because Brian Goodwin's been good with you guys since you guys
Yeah,
brought him up, but Gavin Sheets has shown some flashes of being a really good hitter, and I think his bat could be very useful in the playoffs.
yeah, both of them absolutely mashed righties, so I wasn't really too mad either way. But I mean, I don't know. Gavin is a little experienced. Obviously, he hasn't played that much, but I mean, to look at Brian Goodwin, he's been extremely solid against righties. Also, I know a couple weeks ago he had a 140 WRC plus versus righties, but I believe Gavin Sheets was at around a 135, so it's not that much of a downgrade. With more power upside, I'm not mad at it. The only thing with Brian is that he had the defensive versatility, being able to play all three outfield spots. But
Hmm.
I mean, we have Billy Hamilton on the roster too, so it shouldn't be too big of a deal. Adam Engel also, but you know.
Yeah. Um, Real quick, short answer. Scale of 1 to 10. Up by 1 run, eighth inning. Craig Kimbrell comes in. How nervous are you?
Uh, is 10 being the most nervous or 10
Yeah,
being
yeah. 10
okay?
being the most nervous.
Um, 3.
3. That's what I like to
Yeah.
hear. Um, if you had the chance, if there was no feelings hurt, I guess, or anything, are you throwing Liam out there in the ninth or Kimbrell if it was up to you?
See, the thing is, I would probably make it a closer by committee, in my opinion, but gun to head, probably Craig Kimbrell. In my personal opinion,
Mm-hmm.
I think Craig is more suited for the closer role, and Liam is more the guy that you could throw out there in the sixth or the seventh if you had to in a close game, and he'll just go in with the same fire and same tenacity that he'll have no matter when the game is. Craig just seems a lot more methodical and more routine based,
Yeah.
personally, because
And
Liam came up as a starter and he was a pitcher in garbage time just a
Hmm.
few years ago. So I think he's used to the other roles also. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with either one. You have so many options. I was
For
just
sure.
interested in to see your opinion on that.
Hmm.
Who's going to be the offensive dark horse? Someone nobody expects to show up in the playoffs the way that hopefully they do. If you were to pick someone out of the blue,
Easy answer, Adam Engel.
really?
Oh yeah, I mean, if you watched the playoffs last year, he was on a tear also, and he was doing very well. He was hitting the ball all over the field and hitting the ball hard at that. And I just think he's a very solid hitter. People don't give him enough credit because he's been injured, but the past few years he's been really solid. He was typically only good against lefties, but I mean this year he's been better against righties than he is against lefties. He's been solid all around. He's had a 130 OPS. I mean WRC plus. Sorry, in 36 games only. But I mean, he's just been solid. He's not going to walk a lot, but he gets on base at about an average clip, and he's got a little pop.
Yeah, absolutely. We've talked about this before, but just before we wrap up, Astros or Rays, who's more scary? I know you believe in Astros. What do you have to back that up?
Um, Personally, I believe in the Astros more just because I feel like their lineup is just better. I know the Rays have that whole platoon thing going where they can mix and match at any day, any time. But I just think the Astros lineup is tried and true, and I think Kendall Graveman, the addition out of the bullpen, really is gonna make a difference for them because they already have Ryan Presley, who's also really solid, and I mean they got Luis Garcia, Lance McCullers. I mean that's not like the biggest. And Zach Greinke also, but
Mhm.
those aren't like the biggest, like most dominant guys, but they're just very consistent and they have solid stuff and they're just gonna get the job done. Um, with the Rays, a lot of their pitchers with the best stuff aren't the most experienced guys. They have McClanahan, who is good stuff. Luis Patino, uh, Boz can't be on the roster, right? No, because he
I
came
don't
up
think so.
just a week ago. But either way, McClanahan and Patino, I don't know how I feel about them with Yarbrough and Waka. I don't know. I mean, obviously the Rays are always underrated, so it wouldn't be a shock for someone to be saying something like this. But
Hmm.
I think the Astros have more firepower, and if they get hot, they're much more scary, in my opinion.
Does your opinion change at all if Glasnow's healthy?
Yes, but I probably still pick the Astros.
Yeah, I
Um,
would agree. I
I
just think it would be a little bit closer.
No, yeah, yeah, completely. Yeah, I just don't like that they're relying on young pitchers in the playoffs, in
Yeah,
my opinion.
yeah, but I won't be surprised if they get it done.
Oh no, no, no. I,
They're,
I,
yeah,
I by any means I don't want to play either, but if I had to pick one.
yeah, absolutely. Um, I think that's gonna do it for the first episode of the Pitch and
For
Catch
sure.
podcast. Well, we appreciate you guys for tuning in. If you're still listening, make sure to follow us on all social medias at Pitch Catch Pod. We will be linking all the socials down below, and we will be releasing more episodes as this baseball craziness continues. But without further ado, have a good day, have a good night whenever you're listening/watching, and thanks for watching.